beings with consciousness. We meditate on the Lord, who is the origin of the universe. Lord, thou abidest in all. Thou art all. Thou assumest all forms. Thou art the origin and goal of all. Thou art the self of all. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss. Salutations unto thee. May the world be peaceful. May the wicked become gentle. May all creatures think of mutual welfare. May their minds be occupied with what is spiritual and abiding. May our hearts be immersed in selfless love for the Lord. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Tonight we are privileged to have a guest speaker. Swami Yogatmananda is in Georgia. He'll be returning on Monday. Our speaker tonight is actually a well-known devotee. She's been a member here for many years and contributes to the society in different ways. For the last 2 summers, she's been the director for the children's program dance aspect of the summer camp. She's an accomplished singer and offers many devotional songs at various programs throughout the year. She contributes to Arati by playing the organ on a regular basis. And of course, the most important attribute is she's been a past speaker, offering very good insights into topics of spiritual matters. The selected subject for tonight is intelligence, pure, human, and artificial. So please welcome to the podium Sravani Bhattacharjee.
Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya vriturmamritam gamaya aviravirma edhi. O Lord, lead us from the temporal to the eternal, from darkness to light, and from death to immortality. Thank you, Chet, for the introduction, and friends, happy holidays to all of you, and we'll begin today's discussion. Now, today's topic, intelligence, is something very familiar to us. The word intelligence is nothing new. We have been almost growing up hearing the word intelligence. It's almost, we go to school and we hear about intelligence and so forth. Now, today, what we are going to do is we're going to take a deeper dive. We are going to look deeper into the meaning of the word intelligence and just see how it relates to the journey of our life. You know, we all have at one level a common journey, and we'll also try to find out how it leads to our final destination. And so we'll start and see how it plays out, where it takes us. So just to, just the word intelligence, what is the meaning of it? When we hear the word intelligent, one word that comes very close is intellect. And intellect in Vedanta also has this term called buddhi. Now that intellect is a faculty which gets associated with learning, knowledge, reasoning, rational, discrimination, and so forth. So this word intelligence, as I looked up in the dictionary, it has an etymological root in the Latin word intellegere, which means to perceive, understand, discern. Now, the word intelligence it's such a common word, it gets used in so many different ways in different contexts. So I thought that before we begin, we get deeper into it, we'll just set a context, kind of a working definition of what we really mean by intelligence for tonight's discussion. So I thought let's start with looking at some of the aspects of intelligence. The first one is, of course, cognition. The awareness, the understanding of things. For example, I'm standing here, I'm aware of this room, this hall. So you are also, you're sitting here, you're aware of what's happening around. So awareness, this awareness of where I am and what is happening, that awareness is a fundamental aspect of intelligence. Next is knowledge. Again, using this, in Vedanta society, we all have our first time. So we come to the Vedanta society, and for the first time, we come again, and a knowledge base develops. And that knowledge also plays out in how we act and in this whole realm of intelligence. So the knowledge that is in the background has a part to play. That's another important aspect, the learning and understanding. And the third is actually most important in the sense that's the response, how we respond. So now, let's say two friends went to the same school, they got the same education, same teacher, everything. But then 20 years down the line, they went to work in the industry. They end up in completely different situations. Now, what's the difference? There also intelligence plays how we are applying the knowledge. And both ways are perfectly fine. We may choose to apply knowledge however we want, but that how we respond to situations based on the knowledge and based on our awareness is also the third important aspect. And a very classical example of intelligence, I think, would be if you think of Sir Isaac Newton. I was thinking about him. And we know that he came up with this law of gravity. And now the story goes that, and he himself narrated later in his life, that he was on a vacation probably. He was studying in Cambridge, and he was sitting in the orchard of his mother's property. And what happens is he sees that the apple is falling. Now he got aware of the fact that the apple is falling down from the tree right on the ground. Now, he was aware, and so were, I'm sure, everyone in that orchard were aware of that, and everybody in this world sees things falling. So the awareness aspect is common here. But the knowledge comes in, because in those days in Cambridge, he was working and thinking more on the orbital nature of how the moon goes around the earth and so forth. So he was actually studying and thinking deeply and trying to solve a problem. So that knowledge aspect played in, and he thought that why is the apple not going sideways? Why is it moving towards the center of the earth, perpendicular? So that knowledge aspect came in, and how did he respond? He, of course, came up with one of the fundamental laws, and he formulated the laws through more observation, and that is I feel that is a wonderful example of intelligence, the expression of intelligence. Another thing, and that was also when I was thinking, I just came up, and that is the illumination aspect, the aha. That the aha moment, that we understand something, we respond to something, we apply knowledge, and the ignorance just goes. And that's also a very subtle aspect of intelligence, that it is the removal of ignorance and the light shines. I mean, that is a little imaginary side of it, but it is there. And and we also see the word brilliance, which is an attribute of light, is almost like a synonym of intelligence. Brilliant, intelligent goes together. Now, we are going to talk about human intelligence. So if you'd like, you can think about, you can extend the concept of human to any organic animated subject, like, the animals and plants, but I do not know much about their intelligence. And to keep the discussion simple, we'll just think about human intelligence, human beings. So let's see. When it comes to human intelligence, again, one of the very first expression of human intelligence that we have recorded is the invention of fire. And that is one of the first recorded, and it's so wonderful that someone who is that's a wonderful example of self-expression, expression of overcoming overcoming the boundaries, the limitedness of our awareness. Now, using this, I think this can be used as a very fundamental example of analyzing what plays in this whole realm of human intelligence. So if we just abstract and try to generalize, the human intelligence plays out this way, that I'm standing here, I have this sense that I am this body, this contour, defined by this contour, I and the world around me, and we are separate. And then an interaction starts. The moment this awareness comes that I am just this limited body, and everything around me is separate, this world, an interaction starts. And that interaction plays out in this whole expression of human intelligence. What do I want to do? Want to be happy. Now that is a fundamental aspect also. We want to be happy. Whatever we are doing, the innovations, let's say we are discovering, we are trying to get more comfort. We are trying to, just think about the days when there was no electricity. Now, when we lose power even for a few minutes, life becomes miserable, But there has been time when there was no power. So all these discoveries, all the attempts of human self-expression has been, how can we live a better life, a more comfortable life? It can be physical. I was also thinking, you can ask the question, well, somebody, let's say, goes and works with the impoverished people. Let's say a doctor, instead of earning a lot of money sitting in a city, goes to Africa, and he gives up all his comforts, everything, and works for the poor people there, the underprivileged people there. Now, where is the happiness element? But just doing that itself is giving his happiness. So we are doing whatever way we are expressing ourselves, our intelligence, our awareness, is really at the root, it is happiness. We want to be happy. How we experience happiness may differ. So for some, it may be physical comfort. For some, it may be something else. But that is one of the basic principles. We want to be happy. The second one is controlling. Controlling means, just think about the Hoover Dam, for example, just as an example. What happened there is that we have there's water, there's river, but human beings found that there's no control over this stream of water, this rushing, there's so much energy hidden in water. Now what to do with it? We are either experiencing drought or flooding. How do we control nature? How do we control our external atmosphere, our external environment? And then we came up with this ingenuine idea of having a dam in which I'm controlling that. This sense of control also we can think in terms of security. There we are in my interaction with this external world. The world is just crushing down on me. I have no control. I need security, our innate desire to be secured. And that is also another expression that leads to many of our activities. And then when we take this thought a little further, security is also, we want a favorable contact from our environment. We want favors, and that also can be translated to love. We want to be loved. So that is another aspect of our human intelligence. And I'm talking a lot about scientific innovations, but that happiness, if you think, we also love good food, and then beauty aspects, so architecture, art, poetry, all these are also expressions of, because art gives us happiness. So that all, not just science, but in the realm of arts and architecture and all, there also we are really searching for happiness. Another aspect is, of course, we want to know infinitely. We want to know everything. We are not happy to just know what is happening right now in this hall or wherever we are. We want to know what is happening in Providence, and then in the whole country and in the whole world. not enough. We want to know what is happening in the entire universe. So what has happened, and what, so that drive for infinite knowledge, that is also a fundamental aspect of human intelligence. We want to expand. So I can actually sum up this, that I am this limited being and this world is around me, and I just want to expand and become the whole world. That it almost seems that way, we can translate, we can abstract and generalize that. We want to expand. We do not have, for example, as a human being, I cannot spread my wings and fly in the air. So what did the humans do? They came up with a whole innovation, that wonderful innovation, unthinkable really, of going against the gravity and coming up with the aircraft. And then today the aircrafts, the commercial aircrafts, they take like almost 300, 400 people just up in the air. So that is, we just wanted to expand it. We want to do things which this physical body does not allow us to do. So to sum it up, I think we can think of it this way, that it is an eternal quest. We are on an endless quest for knowledge and for happiness. Okay, and then another aspect of human intelligence is augmentation, and that will lead us to our next thing about artificial intelligence. Augmentation. Now, what does it really mean? Again, the same concept, that I am incomplete. I, as this body, I'm incomplete, and that takes expression in our search for relationships, nice relationships. We are born to some relationships, but we also want to acquire relationship. We end up having more friends, extended families, and so forth. So the relationship is one aspect, but the other aspect is that, let's think about this, that with my two hands, I am not able to, I can lift only so much weight. I cannot lift. Then what became as an augmentation of this body, we came up with this whole concept of forklift. We can lift more. So that is almost an extension of this human body. So I am able to do things which I cannot do with my two hands. So that is almost, we can think of an extension of our organ. And then if you think about let's say the Industrial Revolution, the waves of, the waves of innovations that we have. Industrial Revolution was a huge scale in 17th and the 18th century. What happened was we came up with so many tools, and those tools are almost like extension of our limited motor organs. And then we were not happy with the tools themselves. We wanted them to be powered tools. So what we added is the electricity. They are not just manually operated, they're electricity. So that is another expression of we go a level further. Then again, we are not happy. And then in the 19th century, and actually 20th century more appropriately, we wanted to add intelligence to these machines. What kind of intelligence? They can do repeated tasks. They can, where we add a piece of software into the machine. But this is a static intelligence in the sense that if A happens, then do B. If B happens, do C. If otherwise, do D. Like that, you have kind of a static piece of logic that is being embedded in the machines. So that's where we keep our journey onward and forward, the progress defined by human intelligence. And then we are still not happy. We want the machines who are augmenting us to do more. And that's where we want them to be just like us, to be intelligent, to be able to learn and be dynamically adaptive and doing things, to be cognitive, to be really having this, to be able to apply this knowledge base dynamically instead of just this one static logic. And this search for intelligence outside of human is also seen like an innate tendency in us, because we first landed in the moon as one of our innovations, but then we we are not satisfied with the intelligence that we just see on Earth, planet Earth. We are sending spacecrafts to find intelligence in the deep space. I mean, there must be some other intelligence. We just think that it can't be that we are the only smartest entities on this in this universe. And then that has expressed in so many ways in novels, in science fictions. So we went through that whole age of science fictions, where there were so many nice, so many different novels and science fictions that came up. I mean, Star Wars, you can think that is more contemporary, but we can go backwards. I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch a TV serial. It was called Knight Rider. And then that Knight Rider used to be like, this man had a car, and the car was his friend. So he used to get out and sit in the car and just interact with the car. Oh, I want to go there. The car would be talking to him, and he would be just sitting in that car, and they would be cracking jokes, and then he used to get into trouble, and then the car would be just maneuvering and making him the hero. And I used to think, oh, it is really fiction. But today, when we talk about self-driving cars and the autonomous cars, it's no longer a fiction, actually, whatever was a fiction then. But that is how we are, what has been an imagination once. That time, really, I used to think, oh, how wonderful. And then, of course, those concepts of Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man, and the Iron Man, and all those things. That means we are not happy with just what I am. I cannot do so many things. I cannot just climb the building just like that. So I need a Spider-Man. And just to get the gender element out, I also used to watch a TV serial which is called Wonder Woman. So there was that woman who used to just swirl and just become so powerful. So those fictions are just an expression of that we want to augment our skills. We just are not happy. And that is leading the way to artificial intelligence. Now, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we can't help talking about Alan Turing, who is a great visionary. He actually exists, he died in 1954 when computing was nowhere even born, computing was hardly a concept. So he submitted a paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, in 1950, and then back then he asked this question: can machines think? So that was the days where we just have powered machines. We did not have, maybe machines that run on electricity, but thinking machines, let alone computer. Computer was also at its infancy, or maybe just conceived of. So that's why he was such a visionary. And he also in that paper came up with what is called the Turing test for artificial intelligence. What is Turing's test? Put it very simplistically, let's say I'm here, and there is another one of the rooms in Vedanta Society right now. I cannot see. There is some entity I'm communicating with from here. And then, and I feel that some human being is sitting there talking to me and interacting to me, the response time, everything. So, but actually it is a machine. So the machine has fooled me to be a human. And that is the Turing test he challenged in 1950. And after 60, 70 years, I think only a few years back in the media, I read in the media that the first machine that could pass the Turing test, that it could really fool a human as a human being a machine. So, so great regards to Alan Turing for being such a visionary, and he's really considered the father of artificial intelligence. And then artificial intelligence is also, in short, called AI. So some of the AI specimens are, you probably heard of IBM Deep Machine in almost 20 years back. It it defeated in chess. It was just a machine, just a computer. It beat Gary Kasparov, who was then the world champion of chess. And then IBM Watson is a great specimen of artificial intelligence. It is also in the media. It was about it became the Jeopardy champion by defeating 2 reigning champions, then human competitors. And then, of course, this Sophia robot, these are just specimens, and she can actually think, she can feel. I saw an interview, you can look up in Google, YouTube. She is actually conversing with another woman. She is being interviewed, and the conversation is going on just like as though 2 human beings are talking. Now, these are very famous examples, and there you can read endlessly, because artificial intelligence is now captivating the industry, our academics, everywhere it is. So there's lots of stuff, but what I would like to do now is just to get into essentially what is artificial intelligence. We do not have time. We can probably go on for hours and hours talking about artificial, but just this essential element. So essentially, it involves what is called machine learning. Now, machine learning, how does it compare to human learning? You know, this whole concept of ML or machine learning, very similar. It is, as we talked about the augmentation aspect, it is really an extension of our human understanding of learning. So what does it involve? It, of course, involved, you can think about machine learning, this picture you're seeing, as a system which can be just a piece of software, which is running in a computer. Now, you feed new information, and it gets trained, and that is also the sensing element, which we also have. We go to college or school, wherever we are being fed with new information, which we are intaking through our senses, and we learn through experiences also, life's experiences. So these are all information, data, which are constantly coming. The difference being in magnitude, in scale. So these machines, just the computational power compared to our brain, for example, I'm talking and you're intaking how much, I'm not sure, but let's say 2 or 3 sentences I can speak and process at a given time. But this, when we take it to a supercomputer or a computing platform, and today we have so fast computing platforms, it can be, the entire library can be processed, the information in the entire library can be processed in that 1 minute. So that is the sensing aspect. And then there is the learning aspect, and there models and algorithms come into the picture. Models is also similar to how we learn. For example, I come to Vedanta Society, I'm here, and so I kind of create a model of what a Vedanta society is like. And then I go to Vedanta society in another city, and then it's a new place, but I apply the same model, and I quickly learn what has been discussed there, what is happening there. So this modeling technique and algorithm is also very important. It's just the learning engine, how we learn. We all learn differently. So the algorithms is kind of the learning engine. And in this context, I can say almost many years back, when I was doing my undergrad, it was maybe around 2 decades back, I spent a summer along with a classmate in a defense research lab in India, and there we built a software, and in that we put this AI logic, which is called, those days, what we did was the artificial neural networks. Just like we have this neural network in our body, this is artificial. That was mostly confined to academics back then. And then what it was doing is that it was a defense organization, so they had this use case of radar. Radar had many, radar's role is to detect all the objects in the radar screen. So that AI, that intelligence, we just built a code, and that algorithm could learn. So if we just feed that, okay, this object A, which can be a fighter aircraft, which could be the second object B is a bomber, object C is a commercial aircraft, then object C is just any object like that. we feed it, we taught it different patterns, and then we actually demonstrated that what was happening is that it has learned, and now when you apply new object, it will just classify them and say, okay, this is object, and like that it produced the result. So it learned, it did not know anything, the software. It had a learning curve, and then the learning curve actually converged into it can now recognize patterns, it can do classification, clustering, and so forth. So that's where the algorithm comes. And just like there's artificial neural networks, there are many such algorithms, and many more are coming up. Memory is another element, of course, we have to retain to apply it later. So very similar, and processing. And then what happens is we come up, ultimately what happens is how you apply the knowledge. So a very great application is prediction, and that is what is happening in the industries, like predictive, like we can detect an anomaly, a failure, only after it happened. But because of the enormous capability of learning and dealing with huge amount of data, it can detect a problem of failure before it happens, and it can predict. So prediction is one. Same thing, when it tries to do, there are many applications of that, and scoring, and then pattern recognition, we talked about that, and then QA, question and answer. So you have this wise Mr. Watson, IBM Watson, you ask him any question, and that has so much application now in healthcare industry, in any industry, you just, that has a huge application. So these are not just our fantasy or media. The artificial intelligence is now a part of our, our existence. And so that's, and of course it's iterative, so it is adaptive, it learns. So here I will take a pause. You can think about it. So essentially that's what it is, very similar to human intelligence. Two examples. One is, I think we do text messaging all the time. An interesting example of machine learning and AI in text messaging is that I've seen that, it's so difficult to type all these long words, and then sometimes what happens is that I use my own lingo, which can be very typical to me, or sometimes I use my native language, and I see this piece of software, it is learning. I just say something once, and next time I go just say suggest, so it makes my thing so simple. So that's one example in our day-to-day life of AI that we are using in our phone. Another one is, of course, what the driverless world, when we have these cars which are, just communicating with each other, not only with each other, even with the infrastructure, with the traffic lights and all. Again, enormous amount of data is being exchanged back and forth, which we human drivers can never do. So, and I think this is a very interesting example. We may never interact or have a robot as a friend. Maybe we will have, who knows. But this car, the way the automobile industry is advancing, probably this is something we will end up using sooner or later. So with those two examples and with that very quick overview, I would just like to sum up what AI really is. This is just a thought that that it seems to me that it is nothing. Artificial intelligence is nothing but an extension of human intelligence. It's just an expression. Instead of limiting it to the body, we are just expressing that, we are giving expression to that same intelligence through machines. And of course, I just throw it in. You can read up what is AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. This is a different story, because it says that when these robots and these machines will self-replicate, and they will know how to develop themselves, and they will become a threat. Now, I would not want to go there. So basically, you can read up. There's lots of stories developing in those lines. But now, as a human being, as we look at this, we just think, so what is this? This is an eternal quest of knowledge and happiness and love. We can again come back to that originally what we thought about. That's what it is. And then is there an end to it? That's my next question. Is there really an end? Is there an end to our knowledge? Basically, what we can learn. Today we learn something, tomorrow that is outdated, and there are 15 other things that come up that we have to learn. And then again, I have this gadget today, and that same gadget becomes 15 other gadgets tomorrow, and then I run after that. Is there an end to it? But what we are essentially doing is we are chasing those fundamental things about happiness, the fundamental things about knowledge or illumination, and we are also love. These are the things that we are really chasing endlessly. Security. We are endlessly chasing security. The more secure we find a bank and the internet to do security, and then we get in the hands of the cyber criminals. So is there really an end to it? So another aspect is what is happening in this whole discussion so far. I, the human, which is this body, am interacting with the external world. My senses are all focused outside towards the external world. So now we will turn our focus a little bit. So as we go back to the very, very early days, it's not that in 2017 is happening that I'm giving this lecture, and we are suddenly thinking about changing direction. At the very, very early days, almost when fire was discovered or invented, that time, since those days, we have also seen a development of humans almost on a parallel scheme. So if you take the whole humanity as one entity, half of it, on one part of it is pushing externally and trying this endless game chasing which never ends. And another part of it is looking within the inner world, the inner environment, and asking some fundamental questions. And we read about all the sages, and those were very, very early days of human civilization. In the Vedas and in the Vedanta, we ask this question, been asked, is there such a thing, knowing which everything is known? It is in the Upanishads, this question comes. So from this enormity of multiplicity, which is endless, geometrically progressing, there's this question comes, is there a unity? Is there such a thing that is just will take to that one singularity? And that question was asked, and that internal search is also going on. That has also been developing as we have been developing in the science and technology. Now, sooner or later, I feel that each of us have to turn around and start this journey if we have not already started. Looking within, looking at the inner nature, and I will come up with a few situations here which comes to everyone's life. One is death and bereavement. I lose somebody who is very dear to me. Now, who is very dear to me? That's also funny. These days, if we're really honest, I think the most loved one whom we do not want to separate with, who is that? I felt that it is our smartphone, really. The iPhone. The separation, not having been denied of an iPhone or a smartphone is the terrible thing that can happen. And human relations come only next. But thankfully, in Vedanta society, we still have people for whom human relationships are still very important. So let's say we lose someone very, very loved. And then the body is still there. The brain is there. All the organs are there. Everything is there. But then I'm bereaved. I'm so grieved. Why? So whom was it that I'm loving? If everything was in the body, that question comes, whom was I, whom that love was really directed to? Another thing is, if the body is, because the same organs can be transplanted in another body and to cure that body, so they still have value. Another thing is that if the body is not going to be of any use, is now going to decay because it's dead, then why do we show so much respect in doing the last rites? Now, whom are doing? There is an entity, there is something which is not visible right now to our senses. Another situation is relationship. We see that is very common these days. Two entities very much have very positive, loving relationship, and then that love just disappears, and then there is separation. Now, why does everything is the same? That same, the same body, same, no change in. Why does it happen again? Who is it that we are loving? Again, if our when I see that my mother loves me same as she in the same way as she used to love me almost when I was 5 years old. She still asks me, "Did you have your breakfast? What did you eat for breakfast?" Like that. So, but the body has completely changed. How the size and the dimensions and the looks, and from then and now. Again, whom are we loving? So this question comes, and we have to inquire and go deeper. Another situation, sleep. When we sleep, there is no difference, like Sri Ramakrishna used to say, there's no difference in sleep between a king and a dog. Right. When we sleep, we completely forget what my profession is, what my name is even, what I have been doing, everything. And we can never recreate that same dream again. No control. So again, we ask, what is that I that we have been, that we are so obsessed with? So, and that brings us to the question, who am I? And in this connection, we can think about a case study, a person, a human being, not too old. He lived only in the I think in the 20th century. Sorry, in the 19th century. He used to go to college and he was studying. Suddenly, he had this sudden experience. He saw himself being dead and his body being taken and cremated. And that time he had this experiential, that experience that he is different from that body and that he is not that body, and that completely changed his life. He became silent and he was always absorbed in that being who he really is, that brilliant being, and not at all interested with the external world, not chasing, because he has realized who he is. And that a man is Ramana Maharshi, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, and he gave very little teaching, but his only teaching was, search this I. Search who is this I in every action. When we are sitting, when we are doing japa or meditation, when we are working at office, every moment, just keep asking this question: who is it that this I is, the root of this ego or this I? Keep searching, and this inquiry. I remember some years back, one Swami gave this kind of a practice that what you can do, you can just close your eyes and just repeat, I. Just close your eyes and just repeat. And what image of I comes? Is it the image of your body, physical appearance as you see in the mirror? Then that means that your I is rooted in this gross body. For some people, when they say I, they just see a mental entity. They are a mental entity, and for them, this whole world is a mental existence. Just thoughts and just the thought world. They just see the thought world when they close their eyes and say I, and even when they open too. And then there is another level when it is just the spirit. It's just the brilliant spirit, and what do they see? They only see that spirit. So this type of inquiry purifies our senses. It takes us to the source of true intelligence. And there's a wonderful dialogue in one of the Upanishads, which I thought I will just share with you, that presents this very inquiry. It comes in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, in which a king whose name is Janaka talks to another sage whose name is Yajnavalkya. So the king asks, what serves as light for a man? The light of the sun, O emperor, said Yajnavalkya, for with the sun as light he sits, goes out, works, and returns. And then the king asks, when the sun has set, what serves as light for man? The moon serves as his light. For with the moon as light he sits, etc., etc. Then the king asks, when the sun has set and the moon has set, what serves as light for man? Fire serves as his light. For with fire as light he sits, etc. Now, those were the days there was no electricity. We can think about this, the electric light, when there is no sun, no moon. When the sun has set and the moon has set and the fire has gone out, what serves as light for a man? Speech, sound serves as his light. For with speech as light he sits, goes out, works, and returns. Therefore, Your Majesty, when one cannot see even one's own hand, yet with a sound is uttered, one can go there. The king still doesn't stop. He again asks, when the sun has set, the moon has set, fire has gone out, speech has stopped, what serves as light for a man? The self, indeed, is his light. For with the self as light he sits, goes out, works, and returns. Which is the self? This Purusha, which is identified with the intellect and is the midst of the organs, the self, effulgent light within the heart. So now this discussion, I was thinking that it doesn't mean that, everything we need a power outage for the self's light to shine in us. No. That is actually the source which is lighting everything, which is lighting our awareness, the very awareness. And that is always there, and that is really the source. So this type of inquiry takes us to that pure source of our intelligence. And here again, I will read from Swami Vivekananda's lecture called The Cosmos. Macrocosm is in the book Jnana Yoga. What is the most evolved notion that man has of this universe? It is intelligence, the adjustment of part to part, the display of intelligence, of which the ancient design theory was an attempt at expression. The beginning was, therefore, intelligence. At the beginning, that intelligence becomes involved, and in the end, that intelligence gets evolved. The sum total of the intelligence displayed in the universe must, therefore, be the involved universal intelligence unfolding itself. This universal intelligence, or to be in line with our today's discussion, that pure intelligence, is what we call God, theologically. He also says in another place, the various forms of cosmic energies, such as matter, again, think of machines. Matter, thought, force, intelligence, human intelligence here, and so forth, are simply the manifestation of that cosmic intelligence, or as we shall call it henceforth, the Supreme Lord. So that is that intelligence. Through inquiry, we can transcend that intelligence and go to the very source and really experience the pure. And that same pure intelligence through transcendence then becomes immanent. Once we reach the source, we see that that same intelligence is all-pervading. It is pervading through dead matter. It is pervading through machines. It is pervading through robots. It is pervading through the mountains and the skies and the humans and everywhere. And that, the authority of these statements is again not just some reasoning that some man has sat together and came up with, the sages. It is not just the reasoning, it is their experience. The authority lies in their own experience. If we talk about someone who is again in the 19th century, Sri Ramakrishna, he said that his experience, he is narrating to his disciple that I am seeing everybody who is sitting around me. The consciousness is just going in and through each of, just like think of sweet mist dip in syrup. The syrup is in and through. I'm just seeing that this consciousness is just this intelligence or consciousness that is just seeping through everything. And when he was a priest, when he was doing ritual worship, he said, when I used to try to do the rituals, I could not, because I saw that the same brilliance in the utensils that are used, the pots and pans, which whatever utensils are used in the worship, they're all alive. That same intelligence is just going through that. And even the cat, the dog, everything. So I could not, whom do I worship? Do I worship the God or this? So now if a sage, if somebody could experience that, why can we cannot experience? And that answer also, why can we not experience it in this book, let's say? And so there the answer is, what they say is that we have to purify our senses, our sensory thing, as we looked at this, if you go back to this diagram that we had, this sensing and this learning, we have to purify each of these elements. And how to purify? That's today we think that, okay, I am, the consciousness is a human, there's so much research going on consciousness, brain and consciousness, whether, the consciousness is just in brain or it is something beyond. Now, but these studies are mostly on organic substances like human beings. And we think that driverless car, that autonomous car, what is it? I mean, it is just running some software. It does not have that intelligence, but that it does not have any consciousness. Its brain is what? Just a piece of software that I wrote. Now, that is a limitation of our own intelligence, our own understanding. Because once we get the vision of Sri Ramakrishna like people, Christ-like people, what we will see that matter will cease to be just dead matter, and we will see we'll see that same unified consciousness everywhere. So this is just a limitation, and so instead of just cogitating on that, what we need to do, according to the great masters of spirituality, is that we have to purify our senses. How to purify? Of course, through inquiry. Who am I? Through yoga, and I'm sure as Vedanta students, you all know those very well. Yoga is that technology. So there is this science in which we are talking about theory, this theoretical science, where we just talk about theories. But had human intelligence been only limited in theory, then we would not have industries, we would not even have a chair here in this hall. That theory has to be translated into technology, and then only it has an application, that application of knowledge. So that application of knowledge, when we are directing it inwards to our internal inquiry, that is yoga. And that yoga disciplines our senses. It stops it from being uncontrolled, and the senses gets purified. They develop that faculty which is currently only potential, and then they develop that that ability to sense the superconscious, the pure consciousness, which today we are just talking about, and I'm sure we will also be experiencing that someday, because as humanity, we, meaning the entire humanity, is really, really very fortunate to have great teachers, great seers like Sri Ramakrishna, like Jesus Christ, like Buddha, who has taught us and really showed us the way how to purify ourselves. So with that, I'll conclude. I think a little bit over time. I will conclude, and I invite you to join with me this prayer for purifying ourselves so that we can experience the pure intelligence, which in Vedanta is also called Brahman. Om Brahmametu Mam Madhumetu Mam Brahmameva Madhumetu Mam Brahmamedhaya Madhumedhaya Brahmameva Madhumedhaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This hymn is from the Mahanarayana Upanishad. Translation: May Brahman, the pure intelligence, be realized by us. May the bliss absolute be realized by us. May Brahman, which is also the bliss absolute, be realized by us. May we realize Brahman by purification of our understanding. May we realize the bliss absolute by purification of our understanding. May we realize Brahman, which is also the bliss absolute, by purification of our understanding. Thank you, friends. If you have anything to add, you can do that now. And oh, you do? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for the lecture. It was inspiring.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, that was good.
Thank you, Sravani, for a lively and comprehensive treatment of a very interesting topic and taking it all the way from simple machines all the way to the highest Vedantic practices, all in an hour. Very nice. The announcements for the week. Swami Yogatmananda will be returning, and the Tuesday and Friday classes will be going on as usual. Next Sunday is Christmas Eve in the Christian tradition, and the Vedanta Society will be having a short worship consisting of singings, readings, observations, and a little bit of worship there. Following Sunday, the talk will be given by Swami Yogatmananda. From Human to Divine is the topic. Following the arati, you'll have a chance to meet with Sravani over in the corner as per our standard greeting line. And then there'll be soup supper in the basement, followed by meditation back here at 7 p.m. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. We will now have arati, which will be performed by Karan and sung by the congregation.